The supremacy of the Oudambara tree, that is, the Atti Mara. It appears when God Ugra Narasimha killed the demon Hiranyakashapa, the agony and pain he felt due to the poison which had polluted his fingers did not subside due to any nursing or treatment. When goddess Ganga and all other gods and goddesses failed in their attempts, goddess Lakshmi, it appears, took the fruit of the Atti Mara, that is, the Oudambara tree, and gave it to him. Then only the pain mitigated and disappeared. Since then, the Oudambara tree has become sacred. If the ferocity of the incarnation of God as Ugra Narasimha had not subsided and disappeared, it would have become a grave danger to the whole of creation. Even God Dattatreya, it appears, used to meditate under the Oudambara tree. He, it seems, would always live under the Oudambara tree. Lord Datta himself has also said that he lives in the Oudambara tree. If we interpret philosophically also, Ambara means the principle of Akash, meaning space. It has no form or shape. In the same way, God is also formless and shapeless. Do's and don'ts are for men, not for Mahatmas. Whatever moral and behavioral standards, whatever rules and regulations, whatever virtuous qualities man finds proper and appropriate to himself, he strongly believes that they alone are right. He wants everyone to strictly adhere to them. But great devotees, saints, and Mahatmas do not belong to any caste, creed, or religion, and are not bound by rules and regulations like one must live like this, one must eat this only, and at this time, and one must do like this and at this time only, one must behave like this, etc. The reality, free from the ego of me and mine. The most important thing for every earnest seeker is the end of the ego, the me and mine obsession. Without this, whatever sadhana you do will be in vain. If you get rid of your ego, it means you have attained the goal of your sadhana and are blessed. It means you have attained the satisfaction, happiness, and joy of fulfillment of the purpose of human birth. The saints and sages of yore have struggled hard for any number of years only to get rid of their ego. Even now, many earnest sadhakas, meaning seekers, who have renounced everything and have engaged themselves in serious sadhana, are still struggling very hard only because they have retained their egos. This ego, this feeling of me and mine, this excessive love for one's body, this obsession that I am the body, is troubling almost everyone. When people do not make any serious attempts to get rid of their egos, God, knowing that this ego is not going to leave them so easily, inflicts any number of difficulties, trials, and tribulations upon them. Then they begin to wail and exclaim, "O God, we were ignorant. We were thinking that we can do anything. Now we know that we are helpless and that you are our only Savior. Kindly help us." In this way, God will see to it that they lose their egos gradually. Some people think that by reading books and gaining knowledge, they can become spiritual seekers and attain enlightenment and self-realization. Some think that by learning the 4 Vedas and 108 upanishads, they will get liberation. Oh God, is it so easy? You would have read biographies of saints and sages. How much they suffered, how many tests, trials, and tribulations they had to undergo. But one thing, it does not mean that everyone has to undergo similar tests, trials, and tribulations. One who has attained liberation by undergoing all such suffering will easily show the way to others and lead them on the way. God's ways are always mysterious. Whomsoever God wants to liberate, He Himself goes to him. See my own case. Because he wanted to liberate me, he came to me and tested me to verify whether I have become free from all attachments, allurements, and bondages. He came to me in different forms. As Sridhara Swami, as Prabhakara Swami, as Vedamurti, as Alak Niranjan. See in how many ways he has tested me. To do all this to me, see, he came to me in all these forms. I wanted to attain the state in my own way and according to my own understanding. I was doing everything in great secrecy as I did not want anyone to know what I was doing. I didn't want Gurudam, this ashrama with all this paraphernalia, but see what he has done to me. It appears that Sri Ramachandra Prabhu, even when he was very young, knew that the kingdom, the treasury, the kingship are all transient and impermanent. He knew that the body is also transitory, so he thought that he has nothing to do with all these things. He did not want any kingdom or marriage or anything else. He did not want all these botherations. He gave up all his activities and appeared to be lazy, lethargic, and sleepy. He severed all connections with the outside world. Having understood that he is God himself, he cut off all his links with the world. King Dasharatha became very unhappy and concerned. He had done severe penance for several years and obtained boons and then got his sons. If the eldest son, who has to succeed him as a king, came to this pitiable state, what should he do? He took him to sage Vashishta. Vashishta told Rama, "Look, Rama, you have to become the king in the future. You have to become the emperor of the Raghu clan." Rama says, "That is all right. Please tell me first what is permanent and what is impermanent. What is everlasting and what is transitory?" Hearing Rama's questions, sage Vashishta remained silent for a number of days. Then he told Rama, "You are indeed an incarnation, but if you don't become king, Dasharatha will get afflicted with never-ending sorrow. Become a king, but remain totally detached and rule the kingdom. This will satisfy your parents and do good to the world also. What you do as a king will become a model to the whole world." In this way, Vashishta counseled Rama for a number of years and made him agree to become king. It is true that Rama was God himself in human form. His ways and manners and his behavior became a model to everyone and to the whole world. If he had not done all the things he did, he would have just quietly kept to himself and would not have left his footprints on the sands of time. Rama appeared to be just a normal person to others. He fought the battle also like everyone else. But he had neither hatred against nor liking for anyone. He had no desires of his own. He did not want anything for himself. Whatever was to happen through Rama, God got them done through him. If he was an ordinary person like anyone else, would he have granted mukti, meaning liberation, to Ravana? If he had anger or hatred against Ravana, would he have blessed Ravana with Sayujya Mukti, that is, merging with God after liberation? On the battlefield, when some good Brahmin was required for worshipping the Kankana, meaning sacred thread to be tied to the wrists, Rama suggested Ravana's name. He wanted the puja to be conducted by one against whom he is waging a war to kill him. One with stable consciousness, abiding in truth. There was a king named Nirmohi. Nirmohi literally means one free from delusion. He had only one son. His kingdom was prosperous in every way and everything was fine. Once, the king sent his son on a pilgrimage. He asked him to meet saints, sages, and mahatmas on the way and have their darshana to gain enlightenment. The son went to several such mahatmas. In one ashrama, the saint asked him whose son he was. He replied, "He is Nirmoha's son." The saint laughed aloud and said, "You say your father is Nirmoha? What is Nirmoha? It means free from all kinds of delusions, free from all desires and attachments. Such nirmohi, who must have renounced his family and everything, how can he rule a kingdom? How can he have a son? He who has no desires and ambitions, how can he administer a kingdom? King's son replied, I don't know anything, sir. I have come here because my father has sent me on a pilgrimage. That saint said, Look here. I will go to your father and find out whether he is really a nirmohi. Remain here till I come back. He goes to the king. He stands outside the palace gate and tells the sentry on duty, Look here, your king's son has died in our ashrama. Run and convey this news to your king. I have come here only for this purpose. The watchman said, What is special in this? Why have you come all the way to tell this? The saint was very much surprised. He thinks, See this, the death of their king's son is no special news to them? He walked further and met an old woman. She was looking after the convenience and comforts of the people who visit the palace. The saint told her, Hurry up and tell your king that his son has died. She replied, Is it so? All right, let it be. First you go have your bath and take your food. Then you relax for a while and take rest. The saint was nonplussed beyond all measure. He thinks, What a wonder! Death is no news for these people. It is not some ordinary death. Even when I am telling them that their king's son has died, see the way they're behaving. What can he do now? He himself goes to the king and tells him, Maharaja, your son who was on a pilgrimage came to our ashrama on the way. He slept in the night and did not wake up in the morning. He has died. It seems you only have one son. That is why I myself came all the way to convey the sad news. The king said, You yourself have come all the way here and told us. That is all right. It is his good fortune that he died in your ashrama. Bury him there itself. What need is there for us to come there? Have you taken your food? Please stay here for a couple of days before you return. Hearing this, the saint prostrated before the king and said, I became a monk 21 years ago and spent all these years in my ashram in the forest doing sadhana. All this has been a sheer waste. I am still not free from delusions and desires. But you, who are ruling the kingdom, all your citizens, and even your watchmen and attender have become nirmohis. You are free from all bondages. Sir, I only came to test you whether you really are a nirmohi. I beg your excuse. You are really a nirmohi. Your son is not dead. He is alive. The king said, Is that so? It is still better. Please spend a couple of days here before you go back. See, even when the king was told that his son is not dead and is alive, he remained the same, absolutely unaffected. To become a nirmohi is not at all an easy thing. It does not come by merely hearing and knowing about it. One should become self-enlightened and abide in the truth. Only then can one become a nirmohi. How can delusion be there for such a person? Such a person, wherever he is and whatever he may be doing, will in fact appear as if he is not doing anything at all. A person who eats to live and takes food as medicine is hailed as one on a perpetual fast. That is undu upavasi, nitya upavasi. A nirmohi is such a person. Persons who have reached such a state do not want anything, but they don't neglect or be indifferent to their duties. For example, I don't want this ashrama or any of these things, but because of this, I cannot leave the ashrama and go away. I have to look after it the way it should. People who come here should be benefited. They should progress on the spiritual path. Because I don't want anything for myself, if I don't guide them and leave them to themselves, there would only be confusion and chaos. I should do the part that is expected of me. Of course, people who refuse to improve in spite of all of our attempts have to be given up. It is our duty to look after the people who come here and feed them. In fact, we don't want anything from them. We have no expectations or any ulterior motives. Even then, we should do our duty. How they feel about the way we treat them here and whether they feel satisfied or not is their lookout. On our part, we should wish them well and pray that they make speedy progress in their sadhana. God will certainly shower His grace and blessings upon those who deserve. Even extraordinary and exceptional things look ordinary to ordinary people. What can be done about it? It is their fate. To ordinary people, even that Parabrahma Tattva, which is most extraordinary, most profound and outstanding, looks ordinary and insignificant. They don't feel anything. What can be done about it? To a dull-witted person, even if he hears, reads, or sees a Mahatma, that person looks just as ordinary as he himself is, and of no significance. But to a real devotee, to an intelligent man, to an enlightened person, that Mahatma looks most remarkable and outstanding. Of course, it is not necessary also that a Mahatma should look great to everyone. Earlier, when I used to travel in buses, when there was heavy rush, conductor used to shout aloud, asking passengers to move, and sometimes he used to push me forward very roughly, using brute force. This used to upset the devotees around me. They used to flare up and used to quarrel with the conductor. I used to pacify them, saying, "After all, he is the conductor. He is doing his duty. To him, all are passengers. We are all the same to him. How can he have devotion and show reverence to me? How can he look upon me as his guru like you people?" To this, they would tell me, "That is true, Appa, but how can we tolerate such rude behavior on his part, even towards you?" Being virtuous is ending unvirtuousness. Devotee. If we look into Ramayana, there we find Rama as Guru and Hanumanta as disciple. Rama will always be in sorrow. In every difficult situation, Hanumanta will come to his aid. But in Mahabharata, Krishna is the Guru and Arjuna is the disciple. Caught in Dvandva, meaning pairs of opposites, Arjuna will always be crying. In all such situations, Krishna consoles him and restores his tranquility and peace. Appa, these two relationships, I feel, are contradictory to one another. Appa, Rama incarnated to re-establish dharma, meaning virtuous living, to nurture and foster dharma. Whatever was the accepted and established dharma of his time, he scrupulously followed it without the least deviation. Whenever adharma, meaning opposite of dharma, confronted him, whenever he had to undergo grief, adversity, and sorrow, he strictly followed the dictates of dharma and adhered to it at any cost. In this way, he nurtured and upheld dharma. He could have easily refused to go to vanavasa, that is, banishment to live in a forest for 14 years, and no one would have objected to it. But he adhered strictly to dharma and went to vanavasa. However, in Dvapara Yuga, Krishna mercilessly destroyed adharma. He tells Arjuna to mercilessly kill the adherents of adharma, people indulging in sinful and evil ways. He tells him that they are all mere bodies, take birth, live, and die repeatedly. No sin would accrue to Arjuna if he kills them all. He tells Arjuna not to bother in the least if he has to kill his own friends, close relatives, venerable elders, preceptors, etc. Instead, he said that if he didn't kill them all, sin would accrue to him and he would deprive himself of mukti. He said, in whatever manner he destroys wicked, sinful, and evil doers, it does not matter at all. What matters is that wholesale destruction of all such bad elements will re-establish dharma. Destroy adharma and dharma alone remains, Krishna tells Arjuna. In this way, whatever he told Arjuna became dharma. Rama fostered and nurtured dharma. Krishna destroyed adharma. Like this, each incarnation has his own way of re-establishing dharma, doing good to the world. If one has devotion and does bhajana but retains his ego, he cannot realize God. Only in human birth there is the possibility of obtaining God's grace and getting mukti. For this, people in olden days used to undergo enormous difficulties. But in Kali Yuga, the easy way to get God's grace is to obtain Guru's grace, do dhyana and bhajana, and have satsanga, that is, the company of sadhus and saints. Doing bhajana and constant remembrance of God will lead to God realization. Whatever sadhana you do, you should reach that state. This ego, the seeing of multiplicity, this feeling of me and mine has to end before you can reach that state. If you merely have devotion and do bhajana and all, but retain these, you will limit yourself and will not reach that state. But if you do sadhana earnestly and with sincerity, with the sole intention of reaching that state, enlightenment dawns by itself. God will make it dawn silently within. And when that enlightenment dawns, all fears and anxieties about running the household, etc., all fears of body and of death, all hurry-scurry will end and one can become absolutely fearless. As you reach this state and progress further, you begin wondering how much you had attached yourself to all these trivial things and how firm was your conviction that you were merely the body and nothing else. Is spiritual sadhana only for men? Devotee: Appa, I read in Guru Charitra that spiritual sadhana, japa, dhyana and everything is only for men. For women, it is enough if they do pati seva, that is, serving their husbands. Does this mean that women should not do dhyana, bhajana, etc.? Appa: Guru Charitra's period is more than 1,000 years back. Those days, women used to be pativratas, meaning dedicated to their husbands. Wife used to implicitly follow her husband in everything. Her husband's ways, behavior, and conduct used to be hers. She did not even want to live without him. She used to do sahagamana, that is, die along with her husband. When it was so, if the husband was a spiritual person, she also would be leading a spiritual life. Now, times have changed. Women have now become equal to men and behave so. No one dies along with her husband. Now therefore, whatever sadhana man does is for his upliftment, and similarly, whatever sadhana woman does is for her upliftment. Even God now blesses them according to their sadhanas. Therefore, women should also now do sadhana just like their husbands. Whatever has been said in the Guru Charitra applies to those days. Those days, gurus were also advising and guiding their disciples according to the prevalent customs and practices. Times have changed. Now everyone should do sadhana. As times go on changing, that same guru comes and guides people suitable to the changed circumstances. Mutuality in a family. Generally in a family, when the husband wants to make love to his wife, she would not be interested. Similarly, when she wants to make love to her husband, he would be indifferent. Once in a while, and that too for a brief period of 5 or 10 minutes only, in those extremely rare auspicious moments, what we call amrita galiges, both would like making love to each other at the same time. Even then, they would be living together as respectable householders. This is happening in all families all over the world. Only all are keeping it to themselves as a great secret. But when husband and wife really understand each other, know the working of each other's minds, each other's opinions, feelings, and emotions, and develop mutual respect, love, and regards, only then there can be real mutuality and harmony in the family.